Committee of Adjustment meeting. I'll start by introducing the members of the committee and staff. I am the chair of the committee. My name is Tom Plamondon. The remaining members of the committee are as follows. Clarence Louise, the vice chair, Michelle Boyer, Steve D'Angeli, and Danielle Lajeunesse are the other members of the committee. The secretary treasurer is Prashanthi Manoharan, and the planner this evening is Matthew Peverini. For each application that will be considered tonight, the following process will occur. I will briefly outline the purpose of the applications, and then the applicant or agent will be given the opportunity to make a presentation. However, one is not required. It is the applicant's decision whether they wish to speak or let the application proceed on the merits of the information as received. Following any initial comments from the applicant, I will invite members of the public who have an interest in the application to come forward and address the committee. Those members of the public who wish to speak must clearly state their name and address, and you won't be signing the corresponding request for notice because we are doing this virtually. However, if a member of the public does wish to receive a notice, I will ask you or direct you to the town clerk. Each individual may speak only once on an issue, and once discussion has commenced in respect of a motion, no further presentation shall be made. If you require any assistance with regard to visual material or technical assistance, please let me know before making your presentation, or if you are a member of the public and wish us to put up any information again, just let me know. This public video conference meeting is being audio and video recorded. Your name, address, comments, and any other personal information are being recorded according to the Municipal Act and the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. This will help our town clerk prepare accurate minutes and to create a record that is available to the general public, including on the town's website. Questions about this collection should be directed to the town clerk. Please be advised that the reports being considered tonight are available on the town's website. Should you wish to receive notification of any of the decisions for tonight's meeting, again, I would direct you to the town clerk. Owners and agents will automatically be notified. Please ensure that all questions and or comments are directed through me as the chair, and if relevant, I will request the appropriate person respond. It should be noted that the applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to any question or comments should the committee feel that it is appropriate. So moving forward to tonight's meeting and agenda, bring this up. So I'll look to the committee for approval of the agenda for this evening. Let's look for a motion. Moved by Clarence, seconded by Steve. All in favor? And that carries, thank you. Declaration of pecuniary interests and general nature thereof. Are there any for tonight's meeting? And I'm seeing head shake, all no, wonderful, thank you. Adoption of the minutes, item 3. So I'll look for adoption of the Committee of Adjustment meetings of June 18th, 2020, and that's meeting number 20-04. Is there a mover?
Yes,
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt the minutes of the Committee of Adjustments, the meeting held June 18, 2020, meeting number 20-04.
Thank you. Now, before you do that, hold on, Michelle, I'm sorry, I should have brought this to staff's attention here. Okay. If I look at the minutes, there was one area that I caught at the very end of the minutes. If we could, if I could ask that after item, or at the end of item number 4, we carried that. And right after the word carried, it appears new business. That should have been item 5. And adjournment should have been item number 6. So with those 2 minor corrections, Clarence, can you include that if you're able?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to amend on my motion to adopt the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment meeting to include number 5 being new business and number 6 instead of number 5 as the item for adjournment.
Thank you very much. Michelle, I believe you were going to second that.
Through the chair, I check in, second.
Thank you very much. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Sorry, I meant to advise staff of that this afternoon, and I got busy. All right, thank you very much. So presentation of applications for this evening. The first item that we are going to be looking at is minor variance MV 2020-12. This is for the Thompson Funeral Home at 530 Industrial Parkway. And I'll just bring that up. So the applicant is requesting the following relief from the requirements of the Town of Aurora Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 6000-17 as amended to facilitate a 1-story addition to the existing funeral home on the subject lands. A, section 24.329.2 of the zoning bylaw requires a minimum front yard main building setback of 7.5 meters. The applicant is proposing an addition to the existing building with a 5.4 meter front setback to the front yard main building. B, section 24.329.2 of the zoning bylaw requires a minimum side yard main building setback of 19 meters. The applicant is proposing an addition to the existing building, with a 9.6 meter setback to the side yard main building. And C, section 5.7 of the zoning bylaw requires a minimum of 3 bicycle parking spaces. The applicant is proposing 0 parking space, bicycle parking spaces. Comments, agencies circulated. Building division. A preliminary zoning review was completed. Operational services division. Trees situated on the property line may be impacted by excavation or disturbance due to construction. This may result in irreparable damage to the root system and or canopy to one or more of the trees. Furthermore, it may be necessary to remove some trees for the proposed construction. In view of the above, staff recommend that the committee impose conditions 2A to 2F inclusive as outlined in Appendix A to this report. Engineering division, no objections to the proposed application. Accessibility advisory, no concerns with the proposed application. Central York Fire, no comments received at the time of the writing of the report. Legal services, no comments, no concerns with the proposed application. York Region, no concerns with the proposed application. Electric utilities, no objection to the approval of the application. Metrolinx, given that there is an elevation difference between the rail corridor and the side, rail corridor is lower than the site, and the proposed expansion will not move the building closer to the rail corridor, and the existing building setback from the rail corridor will be maintained. We have no objection to the proposed development. However, I recommend that it's not me, this is Metrolinx, but the wording is, I recommend that the proponent engage a qualified consultant to prepare a noise and vibration study to be submitted for review and the satisfaction of Metrolinx. Prior to the issuance of site plan approval, the owner shall grant Metrolinx an environmental easement for operational emissions registered on title in favor of Metrolinx. Is the applicant or agent with us this evening? Good evening, sir. Welcome.
Hello.
So please, your name and your address, and are you the agent or applicant?
Daniel Zappatelli. I am the architect representing Thompson Funeral Home. Would you like
And do
my
you-
address?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's 4480 Côte de Liesse in Montreal, Quebec.
Oh my goodness, my stomping ground. Very good. Do you wish to make a presentation to the committee this evening?
I can make a very brief presentation. I know Sean was supposed to be on as well, but I'll do.
I am here.
Oh, you are there,
I
Sean.
am.
There you go.
I am here,
Okay.
Daniel. Yeah.
Okay. But I'll go ahead with just a small kind of summary of the project, although it's very well described in the staff report. So, the expansion of the funeral home is basically born out of need from the users as they've outgrown their premises for several reasons, business and I guess the market has changed. And as such, the only area we could have expanded was on the westerly side due to site constraints. And so what we've proposed is a fairly modest and austere expansion, ground floor with basement, materials and design maintained as per existing. So we're not, we feel like we're blending in very well. And the expansion really supports the need of extra offices, employee services, and larger meeting rooms, which is reception rooms, which seems to be more and more need of the facility. So in a nutshell, that's what it is.
Thank you very much. I'll ask if there is anyone from the public here this evening that wishes to address the committee.
For you, Mr. Chair, there are no delegates for this application.
Thank you very much. All right. Then I'll look to members of the committee if there are any, or let me just go to Matthew. I've got a quick question for you. Matthew, in this, there are no parking issues with regards to the expansion on this application, are there?
Through the chair, no, there were not any parking issues identified through the preliminary zoning review.
Okay, so we're just dealing with the setbacks and the requirement for a bicycle storage area for 3 bicycles. Am I correct?
Through the chair, yes, you are correct.
Okay, thank you. All other members of the committee that have any questions to the applicant? Michelle, yes.
Hi, yeah, so through the chair, I have a question. Based on the staff's feedback on the bicycle racks and, some of the property, like the areas around the parking area, some of the grassy area in the back, left side of the parking lot, or even against the wall, is there anywhere that you could drop in a bike rack for 3 bikes in this design?
Well, Sean and I have discussed it, and yes, we feel we can carve out a space behind in the parking area or adjacent, say between the parking and the building, where we can provide a pad so that we can secure a parking rack for 3 bicycles. So yes.
Okay. Good. So you're okay with that in terms of putting it in, and we can
Yes.
remove that objection?
Yes, we are.
Okay, super. Thank you. That was my question. Even though I must say, I have been to the funeral home on several occasions, unfortunately. And although zoning doesn't require more parking, I must say that I've had to walk 200 yards up or down Industrial Parkway to make my way into the funeral home on a cold winter day. And I wish there were more parking spots in the funeral home.
Well, we're limited area, of course.
Yes,
But
indeed.
that seems to be the problem in most of our projects where, you know, you never have enough parking on certain events, on certain days. So,
That's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Any other comments or questions from members of the committee? Stephen, yeah, go right ahead.
So I would just like to verify with the applicant. So we will be dropping from the minor variance application, section C, which is the request for a reduction in bike parking, if we were to approve that. And just want to make sure that that's the position of the applicant. So have I understood that correctly?
yes.
Perfect. Thank you. And then let me see, I had, the other question was if you have received a copy of the staff report and you are comfortable with the conditions outlined in the staff report, and also specifically if you have any comments with regards to the Metrolink statements that the chair has read out.
Well, quite honestly, I did read through the report. I'm not sure what the study entails. Didn't really have it in terms of the sound and vibration study from Metrolinx or their request for us to undertake a study. You know, we'll have to look into that. Sean and I haven't really had time to kind of go through that in detail, but we're going to respect the requirements. Like whatever, if we have to mandate a firm to undertake such a study, we will do so.
So actually, in there, thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, if I can ask a question of staff. So this Metrolink study and the easement that is referred to there, is staff recommending that would be a condition of approval?
Through the chair, we're recommending that through condition 2 in the recommended conditions of approval in Appendix A, the owner will have to enter into a site plan agreement, at which point those studies will be likely required from Metrolinx. So upon submission of a pre-consultation application, a circulation will go to Metrolinx and they will confirm the requirements as noted in here.
Thank you, Matthew. So just once again, through you, Mr. Chair, I just want to make sure that we're clear. Should we approve the minor variance applications A and B, subject to the conditions outlined in the report, you would not have any issue with that as the applicant?
No, will not.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So just Mr. Zappatelli, because I understand that you're based in Montreal, I'll just quickly ask, have you done a fair amount of work in Ontario? You're familiar with the differences between Quebec and Ontario?
Yes, I'm very familiar.
Okay.
I've been doing work in Ontario well over 10 years. And with this particular client, we currently have 2 other projects on the go in Vaughan and in Etobicoke.
Okay.
So we're not, and other than SCI, who are the parent company, we have other corporate clients in Ontario, in the Toronto and the GTA area. So yes, familiar with, even at a distance, we managed to get the job done.
Terrific. I mean, I spent 20 years as the planning director for the city of Pointe Claire, not far from where you are.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So I've come after leaving Quebec to come to Ontario back in the late 90s, but it is quite a different process here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
In
I
fact,
just
I
didn't
like to
want
say it's a better process actually.
We can debate that. There's pros and cons to both. I'll just say that, yeah, there, if you're comfortable with these conditions, but I just wanted to make sure that if you weren't, I'd spend a minute, or I'd ask staff to elaborate a little bit more than Matthew did there. But that sounds it sounds like you've covered that question that I had off very well. All right, thank you. Any other comments from members of the committee? Seeing none, I'll ask then for a motion on the application, and I would assume here that we're going to be making a small change to the motion. We can split them and do two motions. In fact, I think we have to do two motions if I'm not mistaken. Matthew, is that correct?
Through the chair, I'll just.
We just lost you there, Matthew.
First glitch.
Well, what we can do is we can do it that way. We can do a motion to approve and then a second motion to deny. So let's proceed on that basis. Two separate motions then, please.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Matthew has told me that it would be better if we made motions separately.
Right. Okay, which is what I thought. So go ahead, Steve.
Okay, thank you. So through you, Mr. Chair, with respect to minor variance application MV-2020-12 or -12, I move that we approve applications A and B subject to the conditions set out in the staff report.
Seconder. Daniel, thank you very much. All in favor? Show of hands, and that carries. I'll look for a motion on item C in the application. Stephen, thank you.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, with respect to minor variance application MV-2020-12, section C, I move that we deny the application.
Seconded by Daniel, and all in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Zapatelli, for your attendance at the meeting this evening, and have a good one. Have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you. Thank you out to the committee. Good evening.
My pleasure. Our pleasure. All right, moving on to the next application. So we have, just to go here. So we have consent application 2020-02, Allen Willow Farm Lane, and C 2020-3. And again, that's Allen Willow Farm Lane. And let me pull that up. And we will be dealing with both of these consents at the same time. So this is, again, 2 Willow Farm Lane. The application is as follows. The applicant is seeking provisional consent to facilitate the development of a single detached dwelling fronting onto Willow Farm Lane. The purpose of the proposed consent application is to first create one new lot fronting onto Willow Farm Lane, the severed lot. The retained lot will front onto St. John's Side Road, and that is C 2020-202. And the second, to establish a 6-meter wide servicing easement on the severed lot in favor of the retained lot, and that is C 2020-03. So comments received from circulating agencies. Engineering Services reviewed the application, have no concerns, subject to the conditions outlined in Appendix A. Building Division preliminary zoning review conducted. No comments provided specifically on the application at the time of writing of this report. Operational Services. There are trees situated on the subject property and or property line that may be impacted by future construction if the severance is approved. This may result in irreparable damage to the root systems and or canopy to one or more of these trees. Furthermore, it may be necessary to remove some of the trees for the proposed construction. It goes on, we have reviewed the documentation for the property associated with the above noted application and provide the recommended conditions in the event that the application is approved. See Appendix A. Accessibility and transportation, no comments or objections. Central York Fire Services, no comments provided at the time of the writing of the report. Legal Services, Legal Services, the town is the owner of a 0.3 meter reserve block 98, plan 65M 2685 along St. John's Side Road. Any driveway access from the property to St. John's Side Road will require the town's enactment of a bylaw to dedicate a portion of this reserve as public highway to be registered on title. The following is registered on title: subdivision agreement, restrictive covenant in favor of the town as per Schedule F 1.6. Restrictive covenant in favor of the town and every owner in the subdivision, no tree removal in the 0-6 open space exception zone as per subdivision agreement. Next bullet, restrictive covenant private, and next bullet, private sewer easement in favor of lot 87, 65M 2685. The regional municipality of York. The region has no objection to the consent application subject to the conditions provided in Appendix A. Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority, no comments provided at the time of the writing of the report. Is the agent or owner here this evening? Good evening, Mr. Morgan.
Good evening.
Welcome, sir. So you've just followed us through the application there.
Yes.
If we can get your name, address, and owner or agent on this application.
Sure, yes. I'm the agent for the owners of the property, who are Jeffrey and Karen Allen. My name is Joshua Morgan. I'm a planning consultant based in Aurelia. My address is Post Office Box 834, L3V 6K8.
Thank you, sir. So do you wish to make a presentation, or do you want to provide the committee with any information?
I did prepare a presentation, and I think I'm going to abbreviate it, but if staff would, there we go. Okay, perfect. Just a question before I start. So I suppose when I'd like the slide to be changed, I'll just ask, and then whomever's responsible will just move it forward for me. Is that the process?
Yeah, just say next slide, please.
Okay. Okay, thanks very much. So this is just an aerial image of the neighborhood, of course. You'll see the red dot there on the southwest corner of St. John's Side Road, which is the road that runs east-west, and Willow Farm Lane, which runs north-south. So the subject property is located at the southwest corner of Willow Farm Lane and St. John Side Road. So these next few slides are just going to provide some images of the subject property as viewed from the road. So this is an image looking westward into the subject property. This driveway provides access to what is currently, there's a dwelling on the property. This driveway provides access to the existing dwelling. But what you see here will actually, if these applications are approved, will actually become the front yard of the proposed severed parcel. And we would propose to utilize this existing driveway and this nice entrance feature. So really not much would look different than what you see in this picture. Next slide, please. So this is a view of myself actually sort of standing on Willow Farm Lane looking north towards St. John Side Road. And the subject property is on the left-hand side of your screen. You can see the entrance feature on the picture on the left. Next slide, please. This is an image facing south on Willow Farm Lane, and the subject property is on the right-hand side. Next slide, please. So this is a picture of the north property boundary. What you see here is St. John Side Road in the foreground, and then the subject property with the trees and the nice green lawn at the back there. So this is the property's north side. And really what you're seeing here is what we propose to be the front yard of the retained parcel. Okay, if we could flip to the next slide, please. So as you can see on this slide, the subject property is highlighted in blue. I don't think you can see my cursor, but the subject property is highlighted in blue. It is developed with a single detached dwelling, currently has access to Willow Farm Lane, and the property currently has 107 meters of frontage onto St. John Side Road and 22 meters of frontage onto Willow Farm Lane, and a total lot area of approximately 1 hectare. As you can see on the bottom of the image here, the yellow coloration represents the LSRCA's regulated area. As we'll see on a future slide, the regulated area is not impacted in any way by the lot which we're proposing to sever. Next slide, please. Just to talk about the policies here. So on the left-hand side of the slide, you'll see 2 Willow Farm Lane, again on the corner of St. John Side Road and Willow Farm Lane. The property right now has 2 land use designations, one being estate residential, which is the sort of peachy color, and one being stable neighborhood. So the lot that we are proposing to sever is at the northeast corner of the subject property and is designated stable neighborhood. The retained parcel, or the parcel that is currently developed, would remain in, of course, the estate residential designation. On the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see the zoning of the property. So that there is similar to the official plan, there is a split zoning of the property. The proposed retained parcel, the developed parcel, is currently zoned estate residential exception 73 zone, which is consistent with the zoning to the west of the subject property. And the proposed severed parcel, which you see in the northeast corner of the lot, is zoned detached second density residential exception 74 zone, which is the result of a zoning bylaw amendment process that we went through in early 2020. I believe the zoning was approved in late February or early March. So the purpose of that rezoning exercise was to place the severed parcel in a zone that is in the same zone that applies to those lots to the south of the proposed severed lot, and to place the proposed severed lot in a zone which is consistent with the land use designation, being the stable neighborhood. So basically, the split designation of the official plan is now reflected in the zoning which applies to the property. Okay, I'd be happy to answer any questions about that as we get moving through here. Next slide, please. So as the chairperson mentioned here, we're proposing to do 2 things. One is to sever a lot, and you can see the severed lot in the top right-hand corner of your image. And we're also proposing to create a servicing easement, a 6-meter wide servicing easement on the south side of the proposed severed lot. You can see the servicing easement on the bottom of the severed lot. And it is proposed that that easement be utilized to extend services to the retained parcel or to the existing dwelling. And we further propose that the services which currently service the existing dwelling simply be rerouted to service the proposed dwelling on the severed lot. So the retained lot would have frontage onto St. John Side Road and the severed lot with frontage onto Willow Farm Lane. And as you will have noted, having read the staff report, there's a process in place to remove the 0.3 meter reserve, which is present across which is present across St. John Side Road. And by removing a portion of that 0.3 meter reserve, or the purpose of that is simply to extend a new driveway into the retained parcel. And long before we submitted this severance application, we consulted with the region of York. It was one of the first things that we did long before we even submitted our rezoning application. And it was evident from the beginning that the region was amenable to granting a new residential entrance onto St. John Side Road. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all these numbers, but there's two tables that I provided. This table relates to the retained parcel. And the purpose of this table is simply to illustrate to the committee members and members of the public that the retained parcel has been designed to meet all of the zoning performance standards of the ER-73 zone. So you'll see the performance standards in the second column to the left, and then you'll see the proposed site statistics in the middle column, and in the far right column, just to confirm that the proposed retained parcel complies with all of the zoning performance standards. Next slide, please. And so this, again, the purpose of this slide is it relates to the severed parcel. It lists the performance standards of the R2-74 zone. It lists the performance standards that have the severance sketch have been designed to. And the column on the right confirms that the severed parcel would meet all of the performance standards of the R2-74 zone. So we've designed the severance so that all zoning direction is adhered to. Next slide, please. I'm sure I'm running out of time, so I'll be very brief.
You are.
Okay. So just as evidence in the or as outlined in the staff report, the proposed severance application is consistent with provincial policy, and that it would facilitate the creation of one new infill lot within a serviced urban area. The property has access to municipal services. That was confirmed by council when the zoning was put in place. The LSRCA has no concerns, and as evidenced by York Region's comments, York Region is also satisfied. And the last slide, please. Just in terms of the Town of Aurora's official plan, I've reviewed it extensively, as I'm sure planning staff have, and it's my professional opinion that the proposal to sever one new lot in accordance with the land use designations that apply to the property are fully supported by the Town of Aurora's official plan. And I'd be more than happy to answer your questions or questions from members of the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joshua. That was a well-prepared presentation, so thank you. I'll ask if there is anyone here from the public that wishes to comment on this application.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have one delegate that wants to speak on this application.
Thank you very much. Good evening, sir and madam.
Good evening.
So may I just ask for your name, your address, please, before you go ahead?
Yes, my name's Andy Mandarino, 6 Willow Farm Lane.
And I'm Carrie Mandarino, his wife, 6 Willow Farm Lane. We have the home that is right beside the lot that is supposed to be severed. And I'd just like to say that it was an estate lot. Mr. and Mrs. Allen bought the lot, had their home built there. We have our home, we bought it brand new, and because it wasn't, that was one reason, because it wasn't a estate lot, that it was very private, it was very quiet, and we do not want a huge house being built right next to our home. We enjoy the privacy. We enjoy the beautiful mature trees there. And as I said, it was originally an estate lot, and we would love it to stay that way.
Okay, so understand your concern there, and I will I'll ask the applicant. I mean, obviously the applicant and the owner of the property are obviously supporting what they're doing. I'll just ask staff a quick question here before Joshua, Mr. Morgan, if you want to make any comment on the comments that have come through the public. Matthew, can you just refresh us on when the zoning was changed in order to bring it into conformity with the other properties on Willow Farm Lane?
Through the chair, the zoning per the staff report was approved in February of 2020. So earlier this year.
February of 2020.
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Mandarino, were you aware that a zoning application had been filed on that property?
I believe I heard about it, yeah.
We
Okay.
weren't sure like if it was what the residential zoning meant.
Okay. All right, so there was no objection made to the change in the zoning when that went through earlier this year?
No, we didn't realize that the house was going to be there. We were thinking it was going to be on the other side of the property, the opposite side coming off St. John's. We just figured everything was residential here, but that
Right.
that lot was the big lot that was supposed to stay as an estate lot.
Okay. And I'll ask Matthew then again, and you may not have this information, but I will ask, are you aware of any objections that were brought forward on the application to rezone?
Through the chair, I am not. I was not the planner assigned to the zoning bylaw amendment file.
Okay, let me then ask the applicant. To your knowledge, Mr. Morgan, were there any objections to your was it you who filed that application?
Yes, Mr. Chair, it was myself that filed the application and appeared before council for the statutory public meeting. And there were, to the best of my recollection, there were no concerns expressed. It was an empty council chamber that evening. I'll leave my comments at that for now. Thank you.
All right. Okay, and is there anyone else from the public that made a request to appear this evening, Prashanthi?
No, it was just Mr. and Mrs. Mandarino.
Okay, thank you. I probably am going to have some questions myself, but I'll turn to members of the committee if there are any questions on this application. Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that maybe we should reflect for the record that there is one letter that was received by staff, I believe, in support of this application from 1 Willow Farm Lane, if I'm not mistaken.
Can I ask staff to verify that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I sent the committee members a letter of support, and I also sent it to the applicant and the homeowner.
Okay.
And that would be, thank you, Prashanthi, and through you, Mr. Chair, I believe that would be the lot immediately in front of the proposed severed lot. So not the adjacent lot, obviously, that the delegates are in. Thank you. And I do have a few further questions. So, Mr. Morgan, you know, these, in order to, I note that the staff report makes reference to the fact that there would be some significant, and also the LSRCA makes reference to the fact that this is an existing area of disturbance on the property, and the trees that are there, are you aware if these were planted when the original home was developed, or are those pre-existing from the woodland that is referred to in the LSRCA report?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to committee member Steve, I'm not aware of the sort of lifespan of those existing trees. I'm sorry, I can't speak to that, but what I am aware of is for the comments that were that were provided, and the conditions of approval if this application or these applications were to be approved, which require a tree evaluation report, and further to that, a vegetation compensation plan or a replanting plan. So I don't know when the trees that are there were, when they were planted, but whatever trees need to be removed will need to be replaced. I can assure you of that just based on the conditions.
Right, and thank you for that. Through you, Mr. Chair, I guess the thought that I have there, because on listening to the concerns of the neighbor, when I walked the property, I noticed that there probably would be somewhere in the range of 10 to 30 trees that would need to be removed to accommodate that dwelling. And I'm wondering if any consideration has been made to maintaining, because they do appear to me to not be native woodlot trees there, and that those would have been trees that would have been placed for screening on the north side for St. John's, and also on the south side to provide some screening to the neighbors. And I'm wondering if any consideration has been given to either maintaining or providing similar privacy, in the retained lot for the neighbors.
Through Mr. Chair to committee member Steve, my client has been very clear with me that only those trees that need to be removed for either servicing or for the proposed dwelling would be removed. And as I mentioned, obviously there's going to be a replanting plan that is required, and that will be a collaborative exercise between an arborist and the town of Aurora. So my sense is, and if I have any input in the replanting plan, I think the common sense approach here is that replanting plan has to have regard for returning as much of that natural buffer to the residents, Mr. and Mrs. Mandarino, as possible.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. No further questions.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Matthew, I saw something come up on my screen. I'm not sure if you wanted to make a comment at this point.
Yes. This is for
Matthew, you must be in a slightly different time zone or something. Your audio is just not there. I'm not sure, Matthew, if you want to. I'll come back to you, Matthew. Is there any other comments or questions? Daniel, go right ahead, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, the chair. Regarding the easement, as the property from 6 Willow Farm is fairly close to that easement, how is that easement planned to be landscaped? That would be for you, Joshua.
Sure, yeah, thank you. Through the chairperson to committee member Daniel. I think it's kind of too early for me to be able to answer that. I think the first step here is for the engineers to identify exactly where the services themselves will locate within that 6 meters. Like, we provided a 6 meter width because that was asked of us by the town's engineering department. We are fairly confident that we don't need that much width. So clearly the intention here would be for the services to be as far north on that 6 meter wide easement as possible, therefore enabling plantings on the south side of the easement. So it may seem like a non-answer, but I'm not intentionally trying to dodge it. I think the reality is we're just not sure yet how much space will be allotted on the south side of those two services, being the water and the sanitary service. But whatever space is available, we will maximize it, and we will plant to the maximum extent possible along that property boundary.
So I am to understand that it will be a green easement that, yeah, okay, you're nodding. Okay. Apart from that, no, that's my main question or comment. Thank you.
Clarence or Michelle? No, Michelle, and no, Clarence. Just a quick question. What is that side setback requirement, Joshua? What is the requirement there? I know you've got it on your chart.
Okay, let me just flip to my hard copy here of my planning report. So you're asking me, Chair, what
Yeah, the side setback, you've got a 6 meter easement there, but what is the setback?
Yeah, good question. So the interior side yard setback, which I think the question is,
yes,
the required interior side yard setback in the applicable R2-74 zone is 1.5 meters. So, you know, if it weren't for the fact that we plan on putting our services through that side of the property, presumably, or not presumably, you could in fact build a house 1.5 meters away from the property boundary. That's
right.
Not our intention, clearly. Our intention is to extend the services there. So the setback that we anticipate from the interior side yards is 6.5 meters, whereas the bylaw requires 1.5. So we're 5 meters beyond what the bylaw requires.
The other question I had for you, Joshua, on this, the drawings that we have received show a proposed building. Is that footprint the actual footprint of a proposed dwelling?
Yeah, that's right. My client, the owners, the Allens, retained an architect to design a building, and what we provided on that severance sketch is the footprint of the building that they have had architecturally designed. I'm not going to suggest to you that footprint may or may not change. It might, but that's sort of as far as has come so far with the architectural design. So it's not just a concept. Real thought has been put into that. It's
right.
We're not just throwing the lines on the paper.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. When I looked at it, I presumed that. I just wanted to not just presume.
Yeah.
The other question I've got for you. So, am I correct in assuming that a new driveway would be provided to the existing residents from St. John's Side Road?
That is correct.
Now, I'm also, the proposed driveway, I believe it's 4 meters on the drawing there. I believe that must have been vetted through the region, because there is a slip-off lane for traffic eastbound on St. John's Side Road to make the right onto Willow Farm Lane there. I'm assuming that has been taken into account with that location. Am I correct?
So what we learned through the comments received from the region of York, which are appended to the staff report, are that the region would like that entrance to be shifted further to the west. So they want us to maximize the setback from the corner, which I understand that. So we'll have to do that. Another comment that was put forward by the region was that they would like, what we would call as planners, essentially an entrance analysis. So they're going to look for a traffic engineer to confirm that the sight lines are adequate, and it's pretty flat there. But they would like an engineer to confirm that, and ultimately, I think that entrance analysis will take into account what you've asked about in terms of the turnoff lane going eastbound to enable people to turn south. So that entrance analysis will take those factors into account.
Okay, I was just curious because moving it further to the west, and again, I'm going to assume that there will have to be some creative license on getting the driveway if it is moved further west to where the garage would be. Based on the location, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to take some, significant site alterations for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that the way these things go, in my experience, is that the entrance analysis will propose what the consultant's engineer believes to be the most appropriate place. So that engineer will put forward a proposal, which will be vetted by the region, and then between the two of those two bodies, they'll figure out which is the best spot. So what you see on that severance sketch was our best guess at what was the most appropriate prior to retaining an engineer for the entrance analysis.
I suppose, and I'll let you know where, again, I'm a planner, so I'll let you know where my head is going. And this really speaks to the neighbor to the south. So that my initial look at this, without even going too far down the road, was that 6-meter easement there could also be a potential driveway. And I've dealt with applications like this myself as a planner and found difficulty in some cases getting driveway relocation to a regional road versus a local street. And obviously to the neighbor to the south there, I don't think that he or they would appreciate the intrusion of a driveway that close to their north property limit, having a second driveway on Willow Farm Lane, because you can't get an access from St. John's Side Road. So I'm trusting that that would not be the case with this particular easement.
Most certainly is not the intention of the easement. It has always been our desire to obtain a new residential access off of St. John's Side Road. That was, I think I mentioned in my presentation, one of the very first emails that I wrote on this file was to the region with a question as to their willingness to support a new residential entrance. And I've been on this file for a long time, like 1.5 years, 2 years, and never once has someone at the region said, no, this is not appropriate and we will not support it. Every time I've asked, which has been more than I probably needed to ask, the answer has been, yeah, we can approve, we can get there, but you have to go through the process. So I am confident. I mean, I'm not the one that makes this decision, as you know, but I'm confident based on the outreach that I've, stick handled, that there will be an entrance onto St. John's Side Road.
All right.
And my client does not want a second driveway onto Willow Farm Lane. I mean, I think it would devalue the severed parcel. So I don't think it's to anybody's benefit to put another driveway onto Willow Farm Lane.
All right, I thank you for that. That was, just I hate to be the last person asking you that question yet again, but
yeah.
Thank you for your response on that.
No problem.
Any comments that I don't know that you'd want to make a comment to the neighbor to the south, Joshua, but I think you're seeing some concerns that they've raised, and I think other members of the committee have brought those concerns forward in a manner to suggest that if this is approved, that some sensitivity towards their north property limit and the right that they would have to enjoy their property. Obviously, they're not in favor of this, but whatever efforts you could make and your client could make in order to mitigate, their views, or whatever you can do in order to help and assist there, would be certainly something to keep in mind. I'll look to the committee then, if there aren't any other comments or questions, for a motion on this application. And from Matthew, sorry about cutting out again. before a motion, I'm seeing a note come up. Matthew, if you want to maybe type it out or can you, how are you doing there?
I'll try one more time.
You're back.
Yeah. Okay. Through the chair, I wanted to bring this up at the beginning, but it cut out. There was after writing their planning report, there was correspondence received from the Conservation Authority. And there was no objection subject to a new condition. So if this is to be approved, the condition per the LSRCA is that the owner shall pay all development fees to the LSRCA in accordance with the approved fees policy under the Conservation Authorities Act. And I can type that into the bubble there so that you can read it if the motion is to approve. So just wanted to state that for the record.
No, thank you, Matthew. Go ahead, Joshua. Did you want to make a comment on that? Have you seen this?
Yes, I have. I'll be very brief. We received that correspondence today. We weren't aware that there was a fee to be paid, and my client paid the fee this afternoon over the phone by a credit card, and I actually have the receipt in my inbox right now. So I assume that the condition will still be there, and I have no problem with that. I just wanted to let the committee know that that's already been taken care of.
Thank you very much. All right, and thank you, Matthew. Appreciate the information added to the discussion. I'll look to the committee for a motion on this application then. Clarence, yes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve consent application C 2020-02 and C 2020-03, subject to those conditions specified in the report of the town, together with the additional condition as recommended and specified in the LSRCA letter dated July 7, 2020, that the owner shall pay all development fees to the LSRCA in accordance with the approved fees policy under the Conservation Authorities Act.
I'll look for a seconder on that motion. Michelle, thank you very much. I'll call a question. All in favor? Opposed? Daniel?
I'll go for. Apologies. I'll go for 4.
All right, so that's all in favor, and that motion as amended carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Morgan, for your time and your presentation, and
Thank you.
have yourself a very good evening.
It was a very smooth virtual public meeting. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. All right, so moving on to the next applications. Members of the committee, what we're going to do for item 4, 5, and 6, we have minor variance 2019-16, 2019-17, both for 145 and 155 Industrial Parkway South. And item 6 there is consent 2019-08. Again, it's Aurora Investments, Inc., applying to 145 and 155 Industrial Parkway South. What I propose to do here is I'll go through all of the applications once. That would include the consents and the minor variances. And then what I will suggest that we do is we deal with the minor variances individually. In other words, we'll split them off, MV 2019-16 first, MV 2019-17 second. Following that, if those are approved, then we'll move to the consents. The consents we will deal with collectively. So with that, I'll run through these applications. So a total of 5 applications have been submitted, 3 consent and 2 minor variances as outlined. So the way they are in the staff report is the way that I will enter them into the minutes. They actually deal with consents first. So consent C 2019-08 is to sever the existing lot to allow for the creation of a new lot fronting on Industrial Parkway shown as parts 9, 10, and 11, being 155 Industrial Parkway South, and again, being the severed lands. Consent application C 2019-10 is to allow an easement over parts 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 for access, maneuvering, and parking. C 2019-13 is to allow for a reciprocal servicing agreement over parts 2 through 9. Minor variance application 2019-16, section 24.297.5 of the zoning bylaw requires a minimum of 197 parking spaces. The applicant is proposing 188 parking spaces, resulting in a parking reduction of 9 parking spaces, thereby requiring a minor variance for 145 Industrial Parkway South, in brackets, the retained lands. Minor variance 2019-17, section 10.2 of the zoning bylaw requires a minimum rear yard setback of 9.0 meters, and the applicant has proposed a reduced rear yard setback of 7.83 meters, thereby requiring a minor variance for 155 Industrial Parkway South, in brackets, the severed lands. So going to departments and agencies circulated. Building Division, preliminary zoning review conducted, no comments provided specifically on the application at the time of the writing of the report. Engineering Division, no objections to applications C 2019-08, C 2019-10, and C 2019-13, comma, MV 2019-16 and MV 2019-17. Comments provided on MV 29-16 are as follows. The applicant proposed a parking easement with 155 Industrial Parkway South to address the parking deficiency at 145 Industrial Parkway South. Engineering have no concerns for the proposed parking easement subject to the following conditions. A, must receive confirmation from Building Division that the proposed parking easement is permitted, and B, must explicitly demonstrate there is sufficient parking spaces at 155 Industrial Parkway South under the zoning bylaw parking requirements with the proposed parking easement arrangement. Operational Services Division and Parks. We have reviewed the documentation for the property and have no formal comments regarding the above noted application. Central York Fire Services, no comments provided at the time of the writing of a report. Legal Services, please note that the Legal Services does not typically require conditions of approval for consent or minor variance applications. Instead, we simply share information with staff if we are aware of anything that may affect the applications. Accessibility Advisor, no comments from the Accessibility Advisor on the subject applications. The Regional Municipality of York has completed its review of the subject applications and has no comments. Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority, no comments from the LSRCA on the subject applications. Electric Utilities reviewed the subject applications and have no objections to their approval, subject to the following comments attached. Hydro One have reviewed the documents concerning the noted plan and have no comments or concerns at this time. Under that, I'll just draw a note because I failed to identify the letter of support in the other application, that as of June 29th, 2021, submission was received expressing concern over what was being proposed, and they were listed in the staff report, essentially supporting the status quo. Is the applicant or agent with us this evening? Status quo. Is the applicant or agent with us this evening?
Yes, I am. Good evening. My name is Dominic Rotundo. I'm the agent for the owner applicant. My address, hope you can hear me.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, good. I'm back on. Okay. My address is Suite 400, 3901 Highway 7, Vaughan, Ontario, L4L8L5. We've been at this for a little time. All these applications are interrelated. We started with the severance consent application, and the easement application, and the minor variance becomes part and parcel with this with all these applications. My client owned the whole parcel. They built the buildings at different stages. So 145, and they had separate addresses up to now, and they're built and completed and occupied by tenants. The first building built was the North Building, which has an address of 145 Industrial Parkway, and that was built in 2007. Site plan approved, building permit signed off. The second building was recently built, 2018 permit, and completed now. And they decided to proceed with this consent application for financing reasons. They don't have a sale currently in play, but that might come in the future. But it's mainly for financing purposes, to be able to finance the building separately. The severed lands are going to be the building to the south, but the North Building comprises parts. If you have the reference plan, it's attached to the staff report, and it comprises parts 1 to 8, and 9, 10, and 11 comprise the severed lands, which are 155 Industrial Parkway. I'm going to keep my comments brief because we want to address any comments or concerns. But we've reviewed the staff report, my client and I, and are in agreement. It's well written, and we've also reviewed the recommended conditions of approval and are in agreement. Just one more thing I'm going to add. I did try to contact the author of the correspondence that was received in 2019, and that's around the time when we started the applications. I tried to determine what the specific concerns were for this matter. I think the comments are more general in nature, with a complaint about the whole, the idea of having variances. I left it. I couldn't determine what specifically was a problem with that person had a problem with this application. So the plans are attached, and I'm available to answer any questions or concerns. I'll turn it back to you.
Okay. So thank you, and I assume then you don't have any concerns with the conditions as they appear in the staff report.
No, we do not. We've reviewed them. In fact, the granting of the easements, we've gone over them in detail with staff, and we're certainly in agreement.
Question then, okay. Is there anyone here from the public then that wishes to address the committee? Prasanthi, maybe you can enlighten us on that one.
For sure. There are no delegates for this application, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you very much. So I'll, I've got just a quick question, if I may, right to staff. We're talking about a parking reduction. If we look at both 145 and 155 together, is the parking currently in conformity with the requirements of the zoning bylaw?
Through the chair, yes.
So the combined total is there. It's just by the severance that we end up having a situation of non-compliance, if I have that correct.
Through the chair, yes, because I believe there is more parking along the southern boundary than there is at the north.
Okay, answers the question that I have. Members of the committee? Any questions at all? All right, I have one comment. Okay, go ahead, Steve.
Sorry, just one, thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, just one clarification. I believe that I read a question to staff, follow-up question. I believe with respect to minor variance 2019-17 that the minimum rear yard setback, I believe that the encroachment that is mentioned is due to the existing building and is only created should the severance be granted, correct?
Through the chair, yes. You'll see on the east part of the plan attached to the report that there is a jog just before part 10.
Yeah.
And because of that jog, that's where the rear yard is from the building to just the commencement of that jog. So that's where the rear yard requirement falls short.
Thank you, Matthew. And through you, Mr. Chair, I think with respect to the chair's question, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I read that in the existing lot has actually got a surplus in parking. So even with the easement, the retained lot would maintain a surplus in parking. Is that correct, Matthew?
Through the chair, yes. The staff report outlines, if you give me a second, I can identify, but there is a surplus regardless on the retained property.
Yep. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
To the applicant. So I did a tour of the property, as probably all of my colleagues on the committee did. And I have to say that I was a little bit shocked with the fact that we're dealing with parking issues. And although there seems to be enough pavement there around, none of the parking lineage has been provided on the site. So here we are talking about a parking issue, and I wouldn't have been able to count the parking on the properties because it's not even identified. I would suggest, and not knowing where the parking actually is by its identification on both properties, driving around, and I'll note that the properties, both of them, seem to be well organized. When I was there, there were a number of trucks that move in between the two buildings without too much difficulty. On the north corner of the property, northeast corner of the property, it looked like someone was using it as a garbage dump. There had to be about 15 or 20 bags of garbage and green garbage bags there, and as well the bins that are provided to the tenants seem to be helter-skelter between the two buildings. So if there was supposed to be parking there, you wouldn't be able to. So I would look to get some understanding from the applicant that the parking should be lined appropriately so that it's readily identifiable. And I would suggest that we make that, if we are going to approve this, that we make that a condition. I'll just ask Dominic, were we waiting for a warm day before we got the lines down, or where do you stand?
You know, I'm certainly going to take that back to the owner. I can't really comment on that at this point, although if that should be a condition, I don't think that would be a problem to have the lines redone. And 2007 building, perhaps, I'm not sure if they were put in at that time. May not be.
They may have been, Dominic. You know, but the building certainly to the south, I mean, it's nicely paved. It's just nothing is identified there. So, yeah, I'd definitely be putting it in as a condition. But that aside, if you're not aware, Dominic, that it hasn't been done, then obviously you can't comment on it. So I'd refer back to a motion coming forward from the committee that that be included as a condition. So any other comments or questions from members of the committee to the applicant? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion from the committee on this application. The applications here, again, what we're going to do is on the minor variances only motion, please. Steve, you want to take a stab at that? Thank you.
Sure, I'll take a stab. So with respect, thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, with respect to minor variance applications MV-2019-16 and MV-2019-17, I move that these variances be approved subject to the conditions in the staff report, and also subject to the condition, the additional condition that the parking situation or that the parking spaces as outlined in the report are made to be readily identifiable within a period of no more than 6 months.
Thank you. I'll look for a seconder on that motion. Daniel, thank you very much. Calling the question, all in favor of the motion as presented? And that carries. Thank you. On the consent then applications, which can be done collectively, I'll look for a motion. Michelle, thank you.
Okay, so through the chair, I would like to make a motion to approve the following items: C-2019-08, C-2019-10, and C-2019-13, also subject to the conditions as outlined in the staff report, Appendix A.
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder on that motion? Clarence, thank you very much. Calling the question, all in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much, Dominic. I hope you're okay with the additional condition that we put on that application.
Thank you. That's fine.
All right. Thank you very much. Enjoy your evening, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And my comment, just wanted to say the staff have been very cooperative and very thorough, and I'm just want to commend them on that. So thank you. Thank you.
Yes, staff have been doing a wonderful job on all of these and these virtual meetings as well. So the chair accepts your comment on their behalf.
Thank you.
I feel like, yeah, I feel like I'm at an award ceremony accepting on someone's behalf. But the comment is very much appreciated, Dominic. So thank you. Enjoy your evening, sir. All right, moving on to item 5 in our agenda, which is new business. I'll ask if there is any new business arising. And seeing none, staff, Matthew or Versante, is there anything coming forward under new business from either of you?
Through you, Mr. Chair, nothing on my end.
Thank you very much. Matthew?
Through you, through the chair, nothing on my end.
Beautiful. I'll ask for a motion then to adjourn. Michelle, thank you very much. And we are adjourned. Well done.